They've gone from being a student where they can take all their student loans and spend it on Star Wars and eat Ichiban and craft dinner to survive. Now they're getting out to the real world, real commitments, don't have the same time. Maybe it's past that point. You're married, just the two of you, but now kids are coming. You're going to have different priorities. Money may be getting tight. So family issues or family changes. You can also have transitions in just sort of your collecting focus. What you're going to collect are maybe different than what it's been in the past. Maybe your expectations are too high. You can have good deals gone bad. Everybody loves eBay, I'm sure. Everyone who loves eBay, put up your hand. All right, anybody who's never been burned by eBay? Never been burned by eBay? Bad deal? That's pretty good. So, a few bad deals, either eBay, through the forums, personal, whatever. You pick up one fake item, it could turn you right off. Maybe it's, the community itself. You don't particularly get along with people. There could be a variety of reasons that, that cause this, change in your focus.
I'll just jump in on one thing that Ellie mentioned, which was expectations. I think that's a big reason why collectors leave the hobby. When they join, they'll have unreasonably high expectations. They'll attempt to collect all the rarest figures in the vintage line or every single product that Hasbro puts out. And I think that leads to frustration. I think a healthy collector is one who will take a long-term approach, who will think of their idea of a collector as one who can be patient, who can wait it out. And I think if you do that, I think it will lead to reasonable expectations, which in turn will lead to a healthier collecting lifestyle, which leads to more collectors staying in the hobby as opposed to getting frustrated and dropping out. I know that a lot of people that I've seen who were big collectors a few years ago have dropped out and sold their collections, and it's just because they set the bar unreasonably high to begin with.
How many of you get frustrated when you try to collect something? How many of you have all the 16 boxes after this one? And how many are you here to get the others that you're missing because you're frustrated?
There you go.
How many of you wanted to buy the full badge set at the store and they only had 200 of them so you couldn't buy them? So you get frustrated and you say, why should I bother to do this anymore? I ought to just quit. As Ellen said, then you think about, well, I can't get them all. I'm either going to do it all or nothing. So you leave the hobby.
Other frustrations, there'll be people that, help build say the vintage community, for example. These are major collectors out there, lots of great items. They've been an anchor for the hobby, great resource. They've been running this, community, I guess, more or less, for the last 20 years. Some of these guys, change professions, change their focus, change their collecting focus maybe completely, and they start to sell out their collections. So when you see a major collector leave the market, and as Mark pointed out, we have well over 10 major collectors, but still when a major collector leaves the hobby, can have quite a mark. To see those major collectors drop out, that can be discouraging as well. There could be new guys coming in all the time, but do you notice what new member comes on board amongst say Rebel Scum forums when there's hundreds or thousands of people out there? You don't necessarily notice it, but when the big guy drops out, you notice it. Gus Lopez or Duncan, they pulled out. Yeah, we'd all noticed that one. So.
I'll add some more. When you are collecting something, how many of you collect the Hallmark ordnance they were selling here at the C5? You realize you are also competing against 10,000 or a million other just Hallmark collectors. They're looking for them too, not just us. If you collect patches and you do Boy Scout patches, you want the Boy Scout Star Wars patches. So you're now competing not only against yourselves, but also the Boy Scout collectors. So it's not just us that want Star Wars stuff. It's the collectors of an area that the Star Wars happens to hit. You collect Transformers. Oh, now I have to have the Star Wars Transformers as well as the other Transformers. So don't think you're alone looking for the Hallmark stuff, or you're alone looking for the patches. There's other groups out there waiting on the side to cut you at the knees.
Yeah, lots of crossover. Who was out at last tour to Endor last night? So you big Disney fans in addition to Star Wars? There's hardcore Disney fans out there that could put a lot of us to shame. We've got one major collector in the group here who's an avid Disney fan as well, and even he is put to shame by some of these Disney fans. So, you know, when Star Tours, that ride's going, you know, disassembled, as we all know. You know, if there's any props left from that, any pieces that are going to be sold off, you know, we're going to have to fight tooth and nail with those Disney guys to get any of that stuff. So crossover, you know, competition from other collecting groups, that can be significant.
And from an international perspective, I've noticed a lot of the product is really hard to get in Australia, for example, and very large vehicles and things may not make it down under, or if they do, they cost so much that, and when people buy them, it's such a commitment that a lot of people, when they get sick of the hobby, won't let it go. It's like, we've got so much time as well as money invested in it that they'll just keep just going and collecting, even if they may have kind of had enough of things. They just push through it and push through it. So I see that a lot in Australia at least.
Canada can have the same thing as well. When we have items shipped up to us, it goes through Canadian Customs, we have to pay duty on that. That's always lots of fun. We don't necessarily get the same exclusives or the same, you know, opportunities as, you know, say U.S. Fan club members, or when it comes to Hasbro, we're lucky if Hasbro Canada has that special offer item, so that can be, yeah, tough as well.
We talked about the overwhelming variety being something that scares collectors away, but it's also possible for one item to disgust you or offend you into quitting. Like maybe it was the Jar Jar tongue lollipop, or the action figure of the guy carrying an ice cream machine. Like, just, what is this stuff? Why am I buying this stuff? Well, or for me, in 1999, when they started the huge, as I call it up here, the merchandising of the pod race, and it was as if Lucasfilm and the licensees were telling us what is going to be popular about the movie. It's a far cry from 1980, when some obscure character with one line of dialogue turned out to be the most popular guy that everybody wanted to collect. All right. Charlie?
How many of you have collected without any interruption at all your entire time you've been collecting? You've never had any? Do you have a life?
Friends and family buy me gifts and go my way.
Oh, yeah, my wife buys me gifts too. See the little things running around there? That's where her money goes. That's where most of my money goes. But life does get in the way. If in my household, if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And that means if I want to buy something, I don't necessarily ask her, but I do know that there are other priorities that I have to look at. Whether it's the dogs, unfortunately whether it's dance lessons, or whatever it happens to be, you do have other commitments that you have to think about. Life does get in the way. You get kids. You have kids. You have kids. You have animals. You move. You have a significant life change, whether it's the death of a spouse or a parent. All those things affect you and affect how you can collect. I have to worry about, in my household, the dogs have to stay upstairs. If they go downstairs, I'm in deep trouble, because they're going to destroy everything that I have down there. So there's a very good lock system on the door to my basement, so the dogs don't go downstairs. And I'm sure I'm not the only one.
Is that to keep the kids that you got in as well?
Unfortunately, my kids are your age. So when my kids were little, they had their Star Wars toys to play with, and I had my Star Wars toys to play with. So I made sure that the two of them were always far apart. Once, they got into the bags or the wrong section of toys to play with. We had a very long discussion about that, and that's when the better lock system went into effect. Because my wife said if you hadn't left the door locked, they wouldn't have gotten in there in the first place. So again, if mama ain't happy, nobody's gonna be happy.
Collecting can be a compromise. Life is a compromise, right? You get married, it can't be your way all the time. You have to compromise. Collecting is the same thing. So again, going back to the starving student, you need to compromise. Your collecting habits evolve. What you collect, how much time you spend on the internet surfing. I don't spend nearly the same amount of time as I used to. I've got family commitments, soccer for the kids, whatever else. So yeah, life gets in the way. In good ways.
How many of you open up stuff? What good does it do if you don't open up something like a statue from Gentle Giant? You can't even see outside the box. That doesn't do you any good. Once you open it, what do you do with the box? No, you don't throw the... I'm sorry? I never toss the box from Gentle Giant because I may have to move at some point. If I really upset Mama, guess who's going to leave the house? It's not going to be her. It's going to be me. And all that Star Wars stuff is going with me. So I have to make sure I got a good box to carry it in. So at my house, I've got a room as big as my display room. In fact, it's probably bigger. But where all the empty boxes are. Because I don't want to throw that stuff away. Because I'm thinking in the future, which is the next point, what will happen to it when I'm gone. I'm not the oldest person in this room, and I'm definitely not the youngest either. So in our household, I've already made arrangements, and we've talked about it. When I'm dead and gone, what is she going to do with my Star Wars stuff? Yeah, she's going to sell most of it. You're right. That's what she's going to do. She's going to keep the life-size Pepsi Yoda. She's going to keep a couple of the Gentle Giant pieces, but everything else, it's going. She's going to have a party. It's simple, I know that. She's already told me that. So I have already made arrangements with somebody that's willing to come in and help her, I don't want to say get rid of this stuff, but at least reclaim some of the money that I put into it for 30 years, or whatever it is, 33 years. So you need to think about that. What am I going to do with it when I'm gone? We all have to leave here and go home. Hopefully we all make it. But you need to, even you young guys, young girls, you need to think about it now, not later.
Well, I think we could go on for hours about why collectors leave the hobby, but hopefully you get the idea. There's a lot of reasons. They can crop up at any time, and they're probably we just scratch the surface almost. But let's get back to our warning signs of a hobby in danger of its demise. Where am I?
The other way.
All right.
Oh, this is my part again.
Yeah, big mouth.
Ah, the hell with the microphone.
No, please use it.
Oh, please use it. If you're under 20, stand up.
Here we go again.
That's right. Okay, so you look around and see how many people are under 20. Can you guys sit down? If you're 20 to 30, stand up.
My competition.
That's right. Okay, sit down. 30 to 40, stand up. There's our biggest group. Okay, down. 40 to 50, stand up.
Stand up slowly though. If you
Come on up. Okay, sit down. What was that, 40 to 50? Yeah. If you're over 50, stand up.
By the way, you owe me a couple $100